Next is from McCucumber. And this, oh my god. Is there even really a necessary reason to read this? You ready for this topic, Conan? You gotta get the kazoo out from McCucumber. This is the first time he's ever did. The subject is a question about Fast Eddie. Hi, K100 family. I've been listening on YouTube and have heard the name Fast Eddie, or maybe it was Crazy Eddie, come up a few times on the show. Mainly when Conan is making fun of the name for not being original. Now, I was reading an article about something related to Conan, the Hall of Fame, the other day, and someone in the comments section said, and I quote, Conan was known as Conan el Barbero in Mexico, which yet translates to Conan the Barbarian. He used to have long hair and was probably the most jacked wrestler of his era in Mexico. So is this true Conan stole his name from Conan the Barbarian? Kind of hypocritical to make fun of this Eddie guy for not having an original name, if that is indeed true. Do you want to
this is like
suspend McCucumber? Those comments.
Explain something to you. Number one, Fast Eddie or Crazy Eddie is a stupid name, and I'll say it to Joe whether he likes it or not. It's very unoriginal. It took no thought process to come up with that. Kind of like the same guy who came up with Big Bill. Guy named Mr. JL for Jerry Lynn. Like, you spent zero time on thinking up of your name. That's number one. Number two, he wasn't a wrestler. He was backyard playing around with some other goofballs. Okay.
Right.
So having said that, since you don't understand the embryonic stages of my name, when I first started, my name was El Centurion, and which that basically means
Centurion from Star Wars.
The commander of a Roman army. Okay. And when my trainer told me that was my name, Rey Mysterio Sr., I was like, I really don't care if you call me the pencil. I just wanted to wrestle. When I got into the ring in my debut match, since I had long hair and all that, they were like, the announcer looked at me and he called me Conan the Barbarian. Conan el Bárbaro. That's how you say it in Spanish. And the name stuck. So no, it isn't unoriginal because I didn't rip it off from anybody. It was given to me. The people liked it and it stuck. And I can't believe that you'd compare that to Crazy whatever the did.
That's exactly what I would have. I was hearing Disco read that. I was like, that's not even apples and oranges. I don't even know how. That's not a comparison at all. And of course, it was backyard wrestling.
Shade at me like, oh, you're hypocritical and you know, fake outrage. Like this is really a big deal. Suspend.
You want to give this?
I don't usually suspend people. Suspend this guy, Joe.
McCucumber.
Yeah, McCucumber suspended. Next is from Next from Jonathan Wood. The subject is Doug Gilbert shoot. Hi again, folks. Just want to get your opinion. Apologies if you've talked about this before. But I wanted to ask about the Doug Gilbert promo in Power Pro Wrestling. WWE's developmental at the time, where he shoots on Jerry Lawler, calling him a claim made against Lawler in 1993 revealed that Lawler was Brian Christopher's father, something that was forbidden to mention on TV, and accused Randy Hill of smoking crack. He was immediately fired and banned. I'm attaching the video below, but I know what happened while y'all were in WCW and was wondering if there was any blowback in the industry that y'all witnessed. Also, have you ever seen another promo or been around folks who legit accuse someone of a major felony as a shoot and not at work? I feel like that's the sort of thing that would cause an on-site situation between workers. Thanks for putting out great content. Happy to be a longtime Patreon member. Oh, and Joe, how is it that y'all can put on quality work week after week but can't get my Go put out a new episode for months at a time? Is that incompetence or just too much beef amongst the parties? A la Ebony and Ivory. Thanks as always, and that's from John Wood. I don't want to play this video.
Okay.
Yeah, the people can like go to our page, put in the Patreon, Joe.
Yeah.
So like, get people to. The videos are too long. Just put them in the Patreon and get people to go to our Patreon if they want to see it, right?
Well, the video said it's 7 minutes, and the guy says it starts at 6:15, so it's only 45 seconds.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I'll put
it's
it
very
on.
short because they cut him off. Yeah.
All right, put it on.
Okay.
Started at 6:15.
This is
if he goes and shoots up, he did get fired. I remember this.
Yeah,
he got fired. It's like you go and shoot on somebody, you get fired. That's what happened. You get fired.
Okay. Here we go.
And go to commercial. And I think now is one of those times.
Hold it, Dave. Let me say one more thing. You give everybody else their chance, right?
Watch what you say.
What's what I say now? Now listen, the first thing. Now, right, hold on one second. Listen, the first thing. Somebody showed me a tape right just to come out here and went, I'm Doug Gilbert and Jerry Lawler. I'm going to stick my fist in your mouth. Well, come on, Dave. I ain't that corny. I just said, You know I'm Doug Gilbert, and Jerry Lawler, you little 13-year-old girl.
Now, come on. This is all. We're not going to let him get away with that anymore. We're going to let those other guys get away with it. Go to a break right now.
Well, you give a guy a live mic, he says something like that, you get fired. So you get fired.
Now, the guy wanted to know if you guys heard about that in WCW.
Yeah, I didn't. He got
Really?
a story.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a. See, that's the thing. Like the marks think like stuff. Like they read things and they think that this stuff was like a bigger deal than it was back in the day.
Oh, just
We
tell
all
him
heard
he-
it. It was just like heard it. He got fired. That's it. There's literally nothing beyond that part of the story.
I
There's
never-
nothing. There's nothing to talk about. Okay.
Yeah, because
So
it
the
was
guy got fired.
1999, and it's not like you would have seen it immediately on Twitter or YouTube or something. You know what I mean?
All right. So this is an interesting. Next one's from Adam DeMoy, and he is our Tony Schiavone watchdog. I guess would be the best way to put it, right? Because he stooged that Tony Schiavone was getting points on his Pizza Hut app
Yeah.
for ordering the pizzas that Tony Khan was getting at AEW. Tony Khan was paying for the pizzas, but Tony was ordering from his app and getting the points on the app.
That's
Okay,
sly. That's very sly.
And he thought that was kind of like a very like kind of a scam. Is the way Adam tried to describe it. Or I may be wrong in that story, but it sounds
Something like
correct. Okay, right.
None of the
Subject-
truth get in the way of a good story, though.
Right. Subject is Trish and neckbeards in Hall of Fame. Hey guys, with the Trish Stratus being back, do you think that will help all the new neckbeard fans discover what feels like? P.S. I have one complaint about Conan and Ray's Hall of Fame speeches and one comment question. Number one, it seemed like Ray just repeated Conan's timeline speech because both speeches ended when Ray got to the WWE. Ray talked very little about matches in his time in WWE for his introduction to WWE Hall of Fame. Number two, when Ray told the story about quitting his pizza job and coming to Mexico because Conan called him, and then after being down there for a few weeks, he was broke and needed money sent to him by his girlfriend and wife, where was Conan during this time? Was Conan broke too? It's a good question. Let's go with number. I want to get to the answer to question number two. Were you broke when Ray quit his pizza job and needed money sent to him when you got him to come into Mexico? Were you broke too?
I was not broke. The problem was Ray never told me.
Told you what?
Why didn't you tell me? He goes, I didn't want to bother you. So if he would have told me, I would have hooked him up.
But you were not broke.
No, I was not broke, but I don't know what the finances were. He never told me.
It's okay. This is funny. The next is from Robert Camacho. The subject is Billy Body. Billy said in his podcast he wants you guys to apologize to him that you need him for K100 Sports, that he's going to do his own sports podcast. I'm honestly glad that he was kicked off the show. He's a cancer and a piece of... That's just all I'm going to say about Billy. Okay? And we've said this repeatedly. We were fine with his content on our show. When he left the show and went on social media, he turned into a completely different person and started accusing us of doing... It's like, bro, it just turned into... We told him to... We constantly gave him advice, constantly told him things we didn't want him to do, and he kept on doing them. We just, okay, well, you're done. That's it. He's not on the show anymore.
I'm gonna get a little more in depth with this and put it to rest, and this will be the last time I talk about it.
Okay.
So what does he want us to apologize for, Joe?
No, he's delusional, bro.
Let me I know we're not going to, cover this more than once. So I just wanted to say he seems to think that you guys can't do the sports show without him and that we stole his idea for a sports show, which is ludicrous to think that you two guys, especially, Conan, giant sports fan, DI guy who really keeps
We've been doing a sports segment every week for 7 years.
And you guys have been sports fans for 45 years or whatever it is, So for him to think, and we discussed a sports segment every football season almost last
couple years. Apologize for what?
Doing sports without him or maybe underpaying him. All this.
Okay. So let me start. So Disco introduced me to Billy because Billy was on the Vince Russo show. Mm-hmm. Billy was mad because I guess Vince didn't want to do something and he was underpaying him.
He wasn't getting the reach on the YouTube channels because Vince's YouTube channel is shadow banned or something. Like they would do clips and they wouldn't get hardly any views.
And everything Vince does is behind a paywall. Yeah.
Right.
He came on the show and he threw some WWE. He threw some rumors of WWE that I thought were very interesting, and he was entertaining. And every now and then he'd throw a little rant. We kind of let it go. It wasn't a big deal. then people would tell us, oh, he's saying this on Twitter and he's saying that. And I'm like, I don't give a,
Right.
that's whatever he does is his deal. It doesn't mean that I condone it. I'm not going to police him or monitor him. That's not my job. And I always used to say, so if he goes out and he shoots somebody, am I an accessory to the crime because he's on my show? Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
So I had no problems with him. The problems started to matriculate little by little. Number one, he comes up to me and he goes, hey, man, can you get me an interview with Meltzer? Me not knowing that he'd been burying Meltzer for a long time, I asked Meltzer and he didn't want to do it. And I'm like, do you have heat with him? He goes, oh, no, I always put him over. And so somebody had shown me this thing where he was constantly burying Meltzer for being a liar, not knowing
credibility.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Then he buried Kevin Cross and Scarlett. I don't know exactly what he said about them, but I guess it was bad enough where I guess Kevin Cross actually addressed it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he wanted me to get him on his show. And I'm like, bro, I'm not even going to ask. You're burying these people and you want them on your show. That's not how it works. You don't bury people and think they're going to come on your show.
Right.
Okay. That was number two. Number three, Rey Mysterio and his son went to England. And he was, hey, can you talk to them and see if they can give me an autograph? So I talked to him. They gave him an autograph. They took pictures. They treated him good. Okay, so we did all these favors for him. Then he starts getting mad because people were burying him on the thing. And he says that Joe was picking and choosing the comments, which Joe might have because he didn't like them. Okay, but at the same time, we never told Joe, hey, just give us negative comments about him. But he basically is convince himself.
Let me give you a sidebar to that to put that in context. He literally thinks that there was like some concerted effort by us to filter out the good, and he thought they were good. Bro, this guy thought that people were writing in emails just to praise him. And I'm like, Billy, there's like literally like one sentence of an email that involves a question not pertaining to you, and like somebody will bury you. I mean, sometimes people will put you over. I go, we read everything.
And you know
word for word, and it's like we're not editing, we're not we're literally reading it again. But the thing was, he doesn't listen to the show. He would be getting secondhand information. People say like, "You guys aren't reading my positive emails." I'd be like, oh, "Yeah, we are," because like somebody people make good comment about it. You just don't listen to it though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's the most ridiculous, asinine. Right. It's absurd.
He would always say, "Oh, these losers." I go, "Why are you fighting with anybody?" And he would always say, these guys are losers. They don't have a wife. They don't have a home. They don't have. I go, who's a bigger loser? You for arguing with losers or them?
Right.
I go, knock it off, dude. And so he kept doing it. And then I think that the final thing for me was he came out and he said, and I don't remember exactly what the story was, that the reason Brett Baker was getting a push is because he was coding Cole with Tony Khan or something. And I'm like, bro, where the did you get this information? Because a wrestler called me. Listen to this. And I told you who it was, Disco. A wrestler called me and he said, hey, if we find this guy at our show, because they had found out, I guess he might have tweeted or something, that he was going to a show, which I actually got him tickets for. Okay. But when he got there, something they thought that he wanted to go to the Saturday show, but I guess he ended up going to the Sunday show. They couldn't find his tickets and they let him in anyways. And he said, you know what, I'm going to wear a disguise. And I go, that might be a good idea. And then later on, he's, I don't know why I have to go to AEW, wear a disguise. I go, well, you're the guy that brought up the idea. But anyways, this wrestler told me, he goes, if we see him there, we're going to kick him out. I go, bro, you have mega heat. And I go, and this about Tony Khan and all that, where did you get this information from? And he told me some guy, which I told you who it was, Disco. Do you remember?
Right. Yeah, some dirt sheet guy. It's not the very credible one.
Another dirt sheet guy with no credibility. And that's a very serious charge. And then later, he comes up to me and goes, oh, man, I feel really bad because after the show, I met Britt Baker and the other guy, Adam Cole, and they're really nice. I go, yeah, you should feel like a dirtbag now. Mm-hmm. And I go, so the only way you're going to continue to work with us if you put an apology up on Twitter. So he put what I thought was a heartfelt apology where he was taking all accountability and responsibility. And the very next day, he was back to the same.
Right.
I was like, you know what? Enough of this guy.
Right. And that's just, it was very simple. All we're telling the guys, like, look, there's things we don't want you to do if you're going to be on the show under our things. Like, you continue to do them, so it's like it's enough. And
Like,
it's not
I'll
like
take-
and
I'll take my own heat for. I say I'll take heat for.
right.
Disco says.
Me
I'm
too.
not gonna eat that you say.
Right, and if you're gonna sit there and like not take this heat for your own, blame us for reading negative comments about you and not the stuff that you're actually saying, that's absurd, bro. The guy, like, if you look it up, I would bet, okay, of my life savings, okay, that he suffers from narcissistic personality disorder.
100%.
And if you look at the characteristics of
personality, and let me tell you another thing that he's so great at sports, bro. We've been doing sports for 7 years plus, okay, before you even came aboard, and you're the one that said, "Hey, make sure you send us what topic of sports you're going to talk about, so I don't look like a dumbass." We don't write down.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Right.
but ultimately, nothing that Billy, bro, we had no, and I think he thinks we had issue with his content on the show. It was fine. It's when he was done with the show, that when me and Conan and Joe were finished with this show, we have no issues. We don't really have any conversations. We have no drama, nothing until we record the next time.
The only
correct?
thing I can apologize for is that while we were in LA, and believe me, very well connected there, I didn't have a bunch of essays.
Right.
Be lucky that didn't happen.
So,
I know we're not gonna. I know we're not gonna dig into this for like 20 minutes. I just wanted to say real quick about the emails. What happened with me and Billy was he wanted to go to StarCast in Nashville, which I was going to, and just long story short, he got into some trouble there with Sean Ross Sapp, and then Cross had an encounter with him, and then he was getting into trouble trying to go backstage a few times. He says it didn't happen. I know that it did because I know the guys that had to lead him out, and I got him the passes through working with Conrad. So I got a lot of heat from Conrad for, why did you tell me to bring this guy? He's causing all this trouble and videos from this.
Yeah, to get him that pass. Remember?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But after that, I hooked him up with Spreaker to put his soccer show on it. So even though I was pissed about that, I still worked with him because he was on the show. All right, I'll help you out. I'll get you on Spreaker. The email, and he has a problem with Husey and YouTube comments. Husey took down negative YouTube comments when Billy asked. So Husey was helping him out. With the emails, it wasn't even that bad. He would get like 5 trolls a week and maybe 2 guys saying, "Hey, Billy's knows it." It was like 5 to 2 a week. And the way that the emails are submitted is simple. The newest emails come in first because they're going to have the more pertinent topics, all the way down to the oldest one that missed last week. That's how I send them. That's it. There's no order selected. There's not even like, this topic's probably better than this.
Bro,
I just send them in order.
You don't even have to, like, we read everything we read goes out in content.
Yeah.
All we have, if you want to sit there and say, just go and listen for yourself. Period. That, bro, the guy literally, the ultimate issue is when you suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, you cannot take criticism, and it's a characteristic of a lot of these dirt sheet guys. That they're not, because they weren't in the business, they didn't become professional wrestlers and everything, but they feel they're a part of the business now, and they're giving out dirt, gossip and stuff, and they feel their egos are inflated, and they all act the exact same way. It's fascinating. Like, literally, Sapp, Satin, Dave is very similar. They all are. It's crazy that the only one I would say is not Jason Powell. Did not show any characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder. He's a pretty cool guy. But all these other dirt sheet guys, they all have that characteristic. And it's like, you can't deny it. It's like, if you look at narcissistic personality disorder, look at the characteristics, you all exhibit those characteristics, period. So it's like, whatever. So, whatever. Everybody's like, oh, we told you and stuff and things. Like, dude, I've always been entertained by having controversial figures because they're controversial, and controversy creates discussion and content. We've never been an echo chamber. And all these other dirt sheet guys won't come on our show. So it's like, he was like one of the only guys that would. So I was like, whatever. So, I don't know.
Like I've always said, for you to insult me, I must first value your opinion, which I don't. But I was on Twitter this week, and somebody asked me something about him, and I echoed something that you said. You said, Billy had said something. You said something like, "This is a," and I said, "Yeah, I totally agree," or something like that. And then he said something like, "Oh, you guys are full of shit, and why don't you tell?" I think it was Hughley.
Bro, he literally thinks
Get
that
your puppets. Let me just finish. Get your puppets. And I was like, please refrain from interacting with me again. And he did it again, so I blocked him. Boom.
Right. But the funniest thing about it is, though, he, like, to show how delusional he is, he thinks that when you went and appeared at WWE, okay, and on the thing, that WWE, that we thought, or you thought, that we could, like, get WWE people on our show. So we became woke and had to kick him off the show because we think we can get WWE people from WWE interviews on the show. He actually believed that. And I'm like, bro, the stuff he believes in his mind, which should only come from a person that has narcissistic personality disorder, he actually thinks, like, he was, like, ultimately, like, you know, the DMs he chose, he literally did not want us to read negative comments about him.
Right.
I'm like, dude, look at my timeline on Twitter. I get more hate than all you guys combined. And then the times 10, and I don't care. It doesn't bother me. If you're trying to pretend that we should be bothered like you are, that is not going to happen. So if you ultimately just cannot handle criticism, and it ultimately got you, you had to leave the show. Is what it is, because we're not going to stop reading everything people say about us. That's period. That's just, it's keeping it 100, but whatever.
Take your corn dog, corny ass out of here and keep marks.
And it's a shame too, because the sports show is real. The sports show was good stuff.
It was great stuff.
It's great stuff, and he literally would rather just go on Twitter and fight with he'd rather do all his instead of just staying in line with that. So
and I told him, bro, do you know how much of an you look like telling people you make more money than them and they can't get laid? Who are you getting over with?
I feel like, and he thinks it like us. That he doesn't think that people, that him saying that and people reacting to him is a problem. He thinks us, people just reading the comments and people reacting is the problem. Like, whatever.
He thinks he's off the show, thank God, and he's off my Twitter timeline, thank God. So,
right, yeah. Next is from Sam, and I feel bad. I actually feel bad for his kid. Because I thought he could have stayed on and done some content with Austin and stuff.
His kid is actually super cool.
Yeah, I like Austin. Yeah,
right.